I discovered my husband and his family secretly planned to give away one of my twins as a gift to my sister-in-law, so I escaped and divorced him. I, a 28-year-old female, and my husband Mike, a 30-year-old male, have been in a loving relationship for almost 6 years. We met when I first joined my job. Because he was more experienced than me, he helped me immensely from the very beginning. Mike knew that I didn't come from a good family. I had to fight for what I wanted and do odd jobs here and there to save money for myself. Both my parents were into drugs and hardly did anything for me. Hence, when I went to college, I moved out, cut them off, and never looked back. They would sometimes try to get in touch with me if they needed money, and because of that, I changed my number and dressed several times. When I started working with Mike, he was exceptionally kind and sweet to me. I remember once I wore a shirt to the office that apparently had 2 small holes I didn't notice, but Mike noticed them and bought me a new shirt to change into so our coworkers wouldn't find out. When it rained or snowed, he would pick me up from my place, even though it was more than an hour away from his, because he knew I had to walk a lot to catch the bus. I would sometimes skip lunch, not just to save money but because, growing up, I never had enough to eat 3 proper meals a day, so it had become a habit as an adult. However, Mike always brought me lunch and insisted on eating with me to ensure I was properly fed. Like I said, my husband was sweet to me, and it didn't take long for me to fall in love with him. The only flaw in our relationship was his family. For some context, Mike comes from an exceptionally wealthy family, the kind with multiple cars, a vacation home, and cruise vacations during the summer. He and his sister went to private school and never had to worry about paying for anything themselves. In fact, his dad told him several times why he even bothered working, as their wealth could set him up for life. But Mike insisted he liked his job and wanted to live with purpose. When Mike introduced me to his family, he warned me that they could be cold and unwelcoming but would eventually warm up to me. I kept this in mind when I met them for the first time. I wore my best dress and heels and presented myself in the most polite and respectful manner possible. His father greeted me politely, while his mother didn't even bother shaking my hand. His sister, Kayla, looked me up and down and smirked, as if I looked like a clown. I felt humiliated but thought of what Mike had told me and let it slide. Throughout the evening. I tried my best to engage in conversation and show genuine interest in their lives and interests. I complimented his mother's cooking and praised his father's choice of decor and his collected art pieces. However, every time I said something positive about his art, his mother would scoff and comment, as if someone like you would know anything about art. Now, I did grow up poor, but that doesn't mean I wasn't interested in art, so her comments seriously hurt me. Mike would squeeze my hand every once in a while, pleading with me to keep my cool. When it came time for dinner, his mother insisted I sit away from Mike since she and Kayla wanted to be near him. I sat next to my father-in-law, who was quite open-minded and polite, so we had a good conversation throughout the evening. Kayla and my mother-in-law fawned over Mike, completely ignoring me. The 3 of them were busy having conversations with each other. At one point, Kayla knowingly started talking about one of Mike's exes, whom she was still friends with. She said the ex was apparently looking the best she ever had, and showed Mike pictures of her in bikinis. From a recent trip, Mike told his sister to stop, but Kayla laughed at his discomfort and said he could always slide into the ex's DMs if he wanted, as she apparently still had a soft spot for him. I was growing increasingly uncomfortable, and I guess my father-in-law noticed too, so he asked Kayla to stop talking as well. However, his efforts were met with resistance from Mike's mother, who seemed to take offense at his interference. I was so uncomfortable with their family dynamics that when Mike excused himself from the table and asked me to come with him to see his childhood room, I was grateful to escape the awkward situation. I followed Mike out of the dining room and up the stairs to his childhood sanctuary. Later, in his room, Mike apologized about his sister. He told me she had always been this way, even when they were growing up, pushing him to date one of her friends and telling him he should only marry someone she was comfortable with. I could sense he was genuinely apologetic, so I let it go and suggested we leave. He agreed. It wasn't until we were saying our goodbyes that Mike's father pulled me aside. His expression softened, and he admitted he had been skeptical of me at first, but my sincerity and efforts to connect had won him over. He apologized for his initial coldness and assured me I was welcome in their home any time. He told me not to take his wife's or Kayla's words to heart, and that he was happy Mike had found someone like me. I felt relieved after hearing those words. Ever since then, I knew it would take a lot of effort to impress my mother-in-law and sister-in-law if I ever wanted to be accepted by them. However, the situation never changed. As Mike's and my relationship progressed, his mother and sister continuously dissuaded him from dating me. I remember once, For my birthday, Mike and I were supposed to go on a long drive to the beach for a romantic picnic. I was excited to spend the day with him. However, that morning his sister called, saying she needed to see him urgently because something had happened. He let me know, and I immediately asked him to go visit her because we believed her. It turned out she had called him as a prank, and there was nothing urgent. She insisted he stay for the day, and when he refused, saying it was my birthday and he wanted to spend it with me, she laughed and said that was exactly why she called, so he had an excuse not to be with me. Mike was so angry that he stopped talking to her for months. After that, his sister sent me angry texts, calling me names, and saying she wanted to kill me because I was coming between her and her brother. I showed these messages to Mike, which made him even angrier. It was only later that year at Christmas, after my mother-in-law intervened, that Mike agreed to forgive Kayla. However, she never apologized to me for the harassment. When Kayla got married young to her then-boyfriend, Joe, she refused to invite me to her wedding, telling Mike he could come single and meet some of her friends. Mike refused to go without me, so she had no choice but to include me in the guest list. I wore a long, pink, floor-length dress that Mike and I had picked out, as it was a grand event, and we were supposed to dress well. He told me how beautiful I looked, and during the event several guests, including my father-in-law, complimented me. Kayla later confronted me, claiming I had ruined her wedding by upstaging her, even though other guests also wore floor-length dresses. She yelled at me and Mike, saying I had dressed that way to get male attention. Mike tried to pacify her, explaining that wasn't our intention, but Kayla refused to listen. She became even nastier to me after that incident. Over the years, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law insulted my appearance, saying I looked poor, calling me a fat pig when I gained a couple of pounds, mocking my family background in front of their friends, and never changing their distaste for me, no matter how polite I tried to be. By the 4th year of my relationship with Mike, I stopped trying altogether, as their behavior was affecting my self-confidence, and I could only take so many shots about my appearance. I had a long conversation with Mike and put my foot down. I stopped attending his family dinners or events and ignored messages from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. I ignored them the way they had ignored me, and my mental health significantly improved. Mike understood and supported my decision, even though my mother-in-law told him I was disrespectful for not visiting anymore and that I wasn't worthy enough to marry. Despite what his family thought, last year, Mike proposed to me. The proposal was a moment of pure joy and love. He had prepared everything and was so nervous when he popped the question. I had no doubt in my mind when I said yes. Later, when he told his family, his father congratulated us, while his mother simply said she hoped he had thought it through, or he would regret it. Mike asked her not to be rude since she was on speaker, and she begrudgingly congratulated me too. I guess she finally accepted she had no choice, and that I would be part of her son's life moving forward. When Kayla found out, she had a stronger reaction. She told Mike he needed to get a prenup with me, saying poor people like me could suck the money out of anyone. That was not only offensive, but shocked Mike, realizing how low his sister thought of me. He told her firmly that if she didn't like him marrying me, she didn't have to attend. They fought more, and Kayla even called me a bloodthirsty gold digger. However, 2 days later, she sent me a text apologizing for everything. I thought maybe she and my mother-in-law had talked and realized there was nothing they could do to keep Mike away from me. I told Mike I was open to signing a prenup because I wasn't marrying him for money. I was marrying him because he was kind and supportive, and that was all I wanted in life. I had a good job and was happy with what I had, so I didn't need anything more from him. Mike assured me he knew my heart and would never ask me to sign a prenup. As the wedding approached, I wanted to look my best, so I started working out rigorously. I sometimes posted post-gym selfies on my social media, and they were perfectly appropriate pictures. I never posted anything racy. However, one weekend, Mike came back from a family dinner and told me how Kayla and his mom said I must be cheating on him, posting those pictures to get attention from other men. He said he stood up for me, telling them he didn't mind the pictures, but Kayla claimed this is how women start cheating on their partners, which made him think. He asked me up front if I was cheating, and I was taken aback. I firmly told him no and that I was offended he would even ask. He apologized, saying his sister and mother got into his head, and he wouldn't have questioned me otherwise. For context, my account is private, and I have more female followers than male, so to this day, I don't know why they would say that to Mike. During the wedding, my mother-in-law and Kayla did everything they could to cause issues. Kayla kept saying she wanted to be a bridesmaid, but I refused point blank. Then my mother-in-law called and chastised me for not including Kayla, saying it would look bad to the family. I pointed out that Kayla didn't include me in her wedding party either, but she said Kayla was going to be my sister-in-law, so I had to include her, or she wouldn't pay for our wedding. This led to a huge fight. When I told Mike, he talked to his father, who assured us it was his money, and my mother-in-law had no say in our wedding. I can only imagine her face when she learned her attempt to manipulate our wedding plans failed. Our wedding happened without further incidents from my sister-in-law or mother-in-law. Mike and I are still going strong, or so I thought, until something happened recently that made me question everything. I never thought I'd find myself in this situation. It started 3 months ago when I found out I was pregnant with twins. Mike was as pleasantly surprised as I was. We were both filled with excitement and happiness. We had been trying for a baby since we got married, and the news of not one but 2 little ones felt like a dream come true. Mike insisted on a family get-together to announce my pregnancy, though I wanted something low-key. I understood his excitement about becoming a father, so I agreed. When we announced I was pregnant at the party, everyone came over to hug and congratulate us. However, my sister-in-law and mother-in-law looked pissed and stared daggers at me. For context, Kayla got married before us and has been trying to get pregnant for a long time. However, I heard from Mike that she is infertile and basically barren. She and her husband, Joe, have tried everything without success. Mike, Joe, and my father-in-law have tried to convince her to adopt if she wants children so badly, but Kayla refuses, saying she doesn't want to raise a kid from the streets. So, I guess she wasn't happy when she found out I was pregnant. I was aware of her issue, which was one reason I didn't want to announce it publicly, as, despite our strained relationship, I sympathized with her as a woman. When Mike's relatives started asking about the baby shower and if we knew the baby's genders, Kayla burst out crying in front of everyone. She rushed to the washroom and locked herself in. As you can imagine, everyone's mood soured. Mike and my mother-in-law begged her to open the door, but she refused. After 30 minutes of begging, Kayla came out with red, puffy eyes. She looked at me directly and said I should have talked to her first before announcing, since she couldn't have a child of her own. I tried explaining I never intended to make her feel bad, but she ignored me and walked out with Joe. My mother-in-law later chastised me for being selfish and making everything about me without caring about others' feelings. After the party, Mike apologized and assured me he would talk to his mother and Kayla, making it clear the announcement was his idea and he never thought it would hurt his sister so much. I still feel bad about Kayla, but Mike assured me it wasn't my fault. The next weekend, when he went to his parents for dinner, I stayed behind, as usual, since I wanted nothing to do with his family's conversations. I don't know what they discussed, but Mike came back saying he apologized to Kayla because she was really hurt. He recounted how she shared the emotional toll of her struggles, detailing countless medical tests and sleepless nights spent in tears for years. As he spoke, I couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. Despite the tensions, Kayla was still family, and her suffering weighed on my conscience. I realized beneath her resentment was a woman hurting and in need of compassion. Mike suggested I reach out to her and I agreed. I messaged Kayla, apologizing for not giving her a heads up about my pregnancy before the party. I told her I wanted to resolve things before my twins were born so we could start fresh as a family. To my surprise, Kayla responded with unexpected warmth and understanding. She thanked me for reaching out, acknowledged her role in our strained relationship, and expressed genuine happiness for my pregnancy. She reassured me she wanted to mend our relationship and be supportive during this special time. Kayla offered to throw a baby shower for me, saying she'd never had the chance to do one for anyone and would love to organize it. I graciously agreed. In the months leading up to the baby shower, both Kayla and my mother-in-law were unusually kind to me. They regularly called to check on my health and sent flowers with cards saying, "Hope Mama Bear is feeling okay or can't wait to see the twins." It was surprising and unsettling, as our relationship had been strained until then. Their sudden shift to showering me with love felt odd, and I couldn't shake a feeling of unease. However, I thought maybe they were making an effort to mend things before the twins were born. I never imagined there could be anything sinister behind it. Despite my suspicions, I tried to remain optimistic, hoping we were turning a new leaf as a family. Mike continued visiting his family for dinner every weekend, and everything seemed fine on the surface. On the day of my baby shower, I was surprised to see Kayla had listened to all my suggestions and kept them in mind while organizing the event. It was everything I hoped, for and more, with friends and family gathered to celebrate the imminent arrival of our twins. Unlike typical baby showers, the men of the family were invited too. My father-in-law brought multiple gifts for the twins. We were all having fun, playing baby shower games throughout the afternoon. Kayla was polite, engaging with guests and ensuring everything ran smoothly. During one of the games, I excused myself to use the washroom. After finishing, I was coming out when I heard my husband and mother-in-law arguing in hushed tones in the hallway. Curiosity piqued. I paused to listen. They didn't know I was there. At first, I thought it was innocent chatter, maybe about baby names or nursery decor, but as I listened closer, my heart sank. My mother-in-law was asking Mike if he had talked to me yet about their plan with the twins. Mike told her to lower her voice, as someone might hear, but she said the time was near, and he needed to man up and talk to me. Mike said he was working on it and that it wasn't an easy conversation. She insisted he needed to have it before the twins were born, or they wouldn't be able to give one to Kayla in time for her 27th birthday. She said he had already agreed to Kayla's demands and had no way out, as she had been looking forward to being a mother for months. My eyes widened in shock as I processed what I overheard. My heart raced with disbelief and dread as the gravity of their discussion sank in. They were discussing giving one of our twins to my sister-in-law as a birthday gift. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like a punch to the gut. I stood there frozen as they continued talking about their plans as if it were normal. My mind raced with anger, hurt, sadness, and most of all, betrayal. I thought my husband, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law were happy about our pregnancy, but their happiness was because of their twisted plan to give away one of our babies. At that moment, I felt like I didn't know my husband anymore. How could he betray me like this? How could he consider giving away our child? Our babies were not gifts to be given away. They were our children, our flesh and blood. I waited patiently for them to finish their conversation, not wanting to be caught, then slowly walked out of the bathroom. I was shaking with fear and anger but held it together as best I could in front of others. Since the baby shower, I've been racking my brain to come up with a plan to escape this situation as fast as possible. I can't endanger my twins in the future. This family is crazy, and I can't trust my husband anymore. I want to scream at him every time I see him, but I'm pretending all is well so I can work on my escape plan. However, because of my pregnancy hormones, I'm worried I'll be the asshole for leaving my husband without asking for an explanation. I don't mind being a single mother, but should I give the father of my children a chance to explain himself before tearing apart the family? Update. Thank you everyone for your advice and suggestions. I read through all the comments and have made up my mind. I want to assure you I will never let anyone take my baby from me. I reached out to my best friend of many years and asked for her help. She is as shocked as I am that my husband could plan such a thing with his family. She has agreed to help me move my things so I can live with her while I file for divorce from Mike. Tonight is the last night I'll stay in the same house as Mike, and tomorrow I'll leave without a note or explanation because he doesn't deserve one. Update. It's been 2 weeks since my last update and I wanted to update everyone on what has happened. As I mentioned, I decided to file for divorce from Mike after overhearing his conversation with his mother about their plan regarding our twins. It was a heartbreaking decision, but I knew it was the right one for me and my babies. With my best friend's help, I gathered my belongings and left our house while Mike was at work. It was a difficult and emotional moment when I walked out the door, as I never imagined I'd leave my husband. But I know I must prioritize the safety and well-being of myself and my unborn children. I've since filed for divorce. Though Mike has tried to reach out multiple times, I haven't blocked him, as I want to remain cordial until the divorce is finalized. Since he doesn't know I overheard him, he has sent several text messages accusing me of betraying him and saying his family was right about me all along. I haven't sent a single explanation as I know he and his family will try to gaslight and manipulate me. For now, they can think whatever they want. The truth will come out during the divorce proceedings. I've blocked my sister-in-law and mother-in-law. Although I feel guilty about not answering my father-in-law's calls, I don't know whether he was involved in this plan, so I can't take chances. I've spent the last few days crying, while my best friend has sat with me and never left my side. She assures me I'm not a bad mother for leaving such a man, and has tried to lessen my guilt about becoming a single mother. I plan to return to work as soon as I can. My best friend, who works from home, has agreed to babysit my twins when I rejoin the workforce, though I've insisted on paying her, as babysitting twins won't be easy. I know this isn't a solid plan, and I wish I had reliable parents to help, but unfortunately I don't. My best friend will only help with the kids until I finalize the divorce, after which, with child support, I can hire a proper nanny. I know it won't be easy, but I'm determined to create a safe and loving environment for my twins. I'm grateful for the support and encouragement I've received from all of you during this challenging time. Update. Hello everyone, it's been months since my last update, and a lot has happened. First, I've given birth and am now the proud mother of my beautiful twins, Jackson and Vinny. I was nervous before giving birth, but the moment I held them in my arms for the first time, all my worries melted away. They are my everything, and I'm glad I took them away from that crazy family. My divorce from Mike was finalized, and despite his pleading, he was not granted custody of the children. He found out during the proceedings why I left him and was shocked that I knew about his plan. He tried to apologize, saying he was compelled and pressured by his family every day and had no choice, but I was further disappointed by his cowardice. It turns out my father-in-law knew about everything, and though he tried to dissuade my sister-in-law and mother-in-law, no one listened to him. I'm so disgusted by this family that I've felt no remorse since divorcing Mike. I didn't ask for a penny in alimony, but he agreed to pay a hefty amount for child support, which will be enough to provide the best for my children. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law tried to contact me and even showed up during the divorce proceedings, screaming and yelling that I was taking the twins away from them. They said they could have provided my children with everything and that I was a bad mother for being selfish. In the end, they had to be restrained by guards. I'm glad they embarrassed themselves publicly, as it helped me get a restraining order against them. Since the divorce, Mike has tried to stay in touch, pleading for a chance to talk and reconcile, but I can never trust him again around my children. With the help of my best friend and a supportive network of friends, I've navigated the challenges of single parenthood these past few months. Recently, I decided to move out of the city entirely to create a fresh start for myself and my children, far from the toxicity and manipulation of Mike's family. As long as I live in the same city, they might try to contact my twins, and I don't want that. With full custody, I have the freedom to build a new life wherever I choose, and I intend to make the most of that opportunity. Moving forward, I'll focus on myself and my babies, so there will be no further updates.